You were told a house is your biggest asset, the foundation of wealth, the American dream. In 2026, that's a lie. While you're grinding to save a down payment, billion-dollar hedge funds are outbidding you with cash offers you didn't know existed. While you're waiting for prices to drop, Wall Street landlords are buying entire neighborhoods and converting home ownership into a permanent subscription model. Today, I'm exposing the forever renter trap, the three mechanisms the real estate industry is using to lock you out of ownership, and why everything you've been told about how to buy a home is designed to keep you renting forever. My name is Sam, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why you're not failing at home ownership. The game is rigged, and the people rigging it are profiting from your monthly rent check. If you've been saving for a down payment that keeps getting further away, if you've lost bidding wars to cash offers you couldn't compete with, if you're tired of being told you just need to save more while watching prices climb faster than you can save, stay with me. Subscribe if you want the truth about the housing market instead of real estate agent talking points. Drop a like if you're already feeling this. Let's start with what's actually happening that nobody's explaining to you. Pillar 1. The institutional squeeze. Here's something your real estate agent isn't telling you. You're not just competing with other families trying to buy a home. You're competing with Wall Street. And Wall Street has infinite money, no emotions, and a business model that requires you to never own. Let me show you the numbers. Between 2020 and 2024, institutional investors, hedge funds, private equity firms, real estate investment trusts bought over 600,000 single-family homes in the United States. 600,000 homes that used to be owned by families are now owned by corporations. And they're not slowing down, they're accelerating. Pattern interrupt, show map of United States with red zones indicating highest institutional buying activity. Atlanta, Phoenix, Charlotte, Dallas, Tampa lighting up. In some markets, institutional buyers now represent 20 to 30% of all home purchases. In certain neighborhoods, it's over 40%. You're not competing with 10 other families. You're competing with Blackstone, Invitation Homes, American Homes for Rent, and a dozen smaller funds you've never heard of. And here's why you can't win. They're buying with cash, all cash, no inspection contingency, no financing contingency, close in 7 days. You're pre-approved for a mortgage that requires inspection, appraisal, underwriting. You need 30 days minimum to close. The seller isn't even considering your offer. But it's worse than just losing bidding wars, because these firms aren't buying homes to live in them. They're buying homes to rent them. Forever. This is the forever renter model. Buy up starter homes in growing neighborhoods. Rent them to people who can't buy because inventory is tight. Raise rent annually because competition for rentals is high. Never sell. You're not their customer, you're their product. A guaranteed monthly revenue stream that adjusts upward with inflation automatically. Let me show you how this plays out in real neighborhoods. I'm going to use Charlotte, North Carolina as an example because the data is public and the pattern is clear. In 2019, Charlotte was an affordable mid-tier city, median home price around $230,000, achievable for dual-income households making $60,000 to $70,000 combined. Then institutional investors discovered Charlotte, growing city, strong job market, affordable for now, perfect target. Between 2020 and 2023, firms like Invitation Homes bought thousands of properties across Charlotte Metro, not scattered purchases, entire streets, whole subdivisions. By 2024, median home price hit $410,000. Not because demand from families doubled, because supply got choked while a new category of buyer with unlimited capital entered the market. And here's the mechanism that locks you out permanently. When institutional investors buy a home, it almost never comes back on the market for individual purchase. It becomes rental inventory, permanently. That means every home they buy reduces the available supply for you by one, forever. The pool of homes you can actually buy shrinks every month, while the pool of homes you can only rent grows. You're being systematically converted from potential homeowner to permanent renter. And it's not an accident, it's the business model. Pattern interrupt, show graphic. 2 pie charts. 2019 Charlotte housing, owner-occupied versus investor-owned. 2024 Charlotte housing, showing institutional slice growing, owner-occupied shrinking. Now you might be thinking, okay, this is bad, but when prices get too high, the market will crash like 2008. Investors will sell. I'll buy then. That's the second trap, and it's the one keeping you waiting on the sidelines while your rent increases. Pillar 2. The interest rate illusion. You've been told to wait for the market to crash, wait for interest rates to drop, wait for prices to correct. Then you'll buy. You're not wrong that prices are inflated. You're wrong that waiting will help. Here's why. The 2008 crash happened because of a specific set of circumstances that don't exist anymore. Subprime lending, over-leveraged buyers, speculative flipping. When prices dropped, sellers had to sell because they couldn't afford the mortgages. In 2026, the structure is completely different, and it's designed to prevent the crash you're waiting for. First, current homeowners are locked in. The average mortgage rate for existing homeowners is around 3.5%. They refinanced in 2020 and 2021 when rates were at historic lows. Current mortgage rates are between 6.5 and 7.5%. If an existing homeowner sells and buys a new home of similar price, their monthly payment nearly doubles because of the rate difference. So they don't sell. They stay put. Even if they want to move, even if they need more space, even if they got a job across the country, the payment shock is too severe. This is called the lock-in effect. And it's removing massive amounts of inventory from the market. Homes that would normally turn over every 7 to 9 years are now staying with the same owner for 12, 15, 20 years. Pattern interrupt, show stat. Normal annual housing turnover, 5 to 6%. Current turnover, 2.8%. Difference equals millions of homes not hitting the market. Second, institutional investors aren't leveraged the same way individual buyers are. They buy with cash or use commercial credit lines at rates individual buyers can't access. When prices dip, they don't panic sell, they buy more. Because their business model is long-term rental income, not appreciation. A price dip is a buying opportunity, not a crisis. Third, new construction hasn't kept pace with household formation for over a decade. The US has been underbuilding by about 300,000 to 400,000 units per year since 2010. That's a cumulative shortage of 4 to 5 million homes. Even if prices drop 10%, demand still vastly exceeds supply. Prices stabilize or bounce back within months. So when rates drop, what actually happens? More buyers enter the market because monthly payments become affordable. Demand spikes. But supply is still constrained because of the lock-in effect in institutional ownership. Result? Prices don't drop. They stabilize at the high level or even increase because the demand surge hits limited inventory. You've been waiting for rates to drop so you can afford to buy. But rate drops don't help you if they trigger demand that pushes prices up faster than the rate savings help your monthly payment. This is the interest rate illusion. The idea that lower rates equal affordability. They don't. They equal more competition for the same constrained supply, which means you're still priced out, just for a different reason. I've watched this trap catch people for the last 3 years. They didn't buy in 2021 because prices were too high. They didn't buy in 2022 because rates spiked. They didn't buy in 2023 because they were waiting for a crash. Now it's 2026. Prices are higher, rates are still elevated, and inventory is tighter because institutional buyers have removed even more supply. They saved the down payment. They waited for the right time. And the right time never came because the mechanism preventing the crash is structural, not cyclical. But even if you somehow got into a home, even if you outbid the institutional buyers and timed the rate environment perfectly, you'd still be walking into the third trap. The one that's bankrupting current homeowners who thought they made it. Pillar 3, the hidden tax of homeownership. Here's what they don't tell you when they say build equity by owning. Homeownership in 2026 comes with costs your parents never dealt with. And those costs are growing faster than home values. Let me break down the hidden tax. The expenses that turn your asset into a liability. Property taxes. In most states, your property tax is based on assessed value. When home prices spike 40 to 60% like they did in many markets over the last 4 years, property tax bills spike with them. A home that had a $3,500 annual property tax bill in 2020 might have a $6,000 bill in 2026. That's an extra $200 a month. Every month, forever. And it's not tied to your income, it's tied to your home's value, which means you can be house poor, barely affording the mortgage, and still get hit with massive tax increases because your neighbor's home sold for high prices. Pattern interrupt, show graphic. Sample property tax bill 2020 versus 2026. Same house, assessed value change, tax change, monthly payment impact, homeowner's insurance. This is where it gets brutal. Insurance costs have exploded. Climate change is making extreme weather more common. Wildfires, hurricanes, floods. Insurers are responding by raising premiums or exiting entire markets. In Florida, annual homeowners insurance has gone from $1,500 to $6,000 or $7,000 in some areas. In California, finding any coverage at all is difficult. In Texas, hail and wind coverage is pricing people out. National average homeowners insurance cost is up 34% since 2020. In some states, it's up 70 to 90%. That's another $100 to $300 a month in hidden costs. Costs you can't avoid. Costs that don't build equity. Costs that just evaporate into premiums. Maintenance. Here's the rule nobody follows. Budget 1% of your home's value annually for maintenance and repairs. On a $400,000 home, that's $4,000 a year, $333 a month. Most people don't budget this, so when the HVAC dies, it's a $5,000 emergency. When the roof needs replacing, it's $12,000 to $18,000. When the water heater fails, it's $1,500. These aren't optional expenses. Homes deteriorate, things break, and modern homes are more complex than the homes your parents bought. More systems, more expensive repairs, HOA fees if you're in a managed community. These average $250 to $400 a month, and they go up every year to cover the community's rising costs. You don't own your home even when you own your home. You're paying the HOA for the privilege of living in your property. Add it up. On a $400,000 home with a 30-year mortgage at 7% with 20% down, here's the real monthly cost. Principal and interest, $2,100. Property tax, $500. Insurance, $300. Maintenance reserve, $333. HOA if applicable, $300. Total, $3,533. But the mortgage calculator said $2,100. And that's the number your real estate agent showed you when they said you could afford this house. Pattern interrupt, show side by side. Mortgage calculator showing only principal and interest. Actual monthly cost showing all 5 categories. The hidden tax is the $1,533 per month the calculator didn't show. $18,400 annually. Over 30 years, that's $552,000 in costs that don't build equity. You bought a $400,000 asset. You'll pay $900,000 in mortgage payments over 30 years, plus $550,000 in property tax, insurance, and maintenance. $1.45 million to own a $400,000 home, and that's assuming 0 major repairs beyond the maintenance budget. Your parents bought a home for $80,000, paid maybe $140,000 total over 30 years. Minimal property tax because values were stable, cheap insurance, simple maintenance. You're buying a home for $400,000, paying $1.4 million over 30 years. Massive property tax because values spiked, exploding insurance, complex expensive maintenance. Same dream, 10 times the cost relative to income. This is the hidden tax, the costs that turn home ownership from wealth building into wealth extraction. And they're growing faster than wages, faster than home values in many cases. So you're locked out by institutional buyers, trapped by the interest rate illusion, and even if you somehow get in, you're hit with costs that make ownership financially crushing. What's the solution? Because I know what you're thinking. This is depressing. Is homeownership just dead? Not dead, different. And the strategy that worked for your parents is what's dead. Here's what actually works in 2026. Stop trying to buy the same way your parents did. The traditional path, save 20% down, buy a starter home in a good neighborhood, build equity, trade up, doesn't work when Wall Street owns the starter homes and the hidden tax makes ownership unaffordable. New strategy, alternative paths to ownership that avoid competing with institutional buyers. Option 1. Buy where Wall Street isn't. Institutional investors target specific markets and specific home types, growing Sunbelt cities, starter homes in the $150,000 to $350,000 range, single-family rentals in neighborhoods with good schools. They're not buying in declining Rust Belt cities. They're not buying condos. They're not buying fixer-uppers that require rehab. They're not buying rural property. If you're willing to buy what Wall Street doesn't want, you're competing with families again, and you can win. This might mean buying a condo instead of a single-family home. Cheaper, lower maintenance, builds equity just the same. This might mean buying in a secondary market instead of the hot growth city. Your money goes further. Less institutional competition. This might mean buying a fixer-upper and renovating. Institutional investors want turnkey rent-ready. They're not bidding on homes that need work. Option 2. House hack. Buy a multi-unit property. Live in one unit, rent the others. The rental income covers most or all of the mortgage. FHA loans allow this with 3.5% down on a 2 to 4 unit property. You're building equity while tenants pay your mortgage. Institutional investors don't typically buy small multifamilies. Wrong business model. You're back to competing with individuals. Option 3. Rent with intention and invest the difference. If homeownership in your market is genuinely unaffordable even with alternative strategies, stop trying to force it. Rent something reasonable. Take the money you would have spent on down payment, property tax, maintenance, insurance. Invest it in index funds. Over 20 years, disciplined investing often outperforms home equity in markets where the hidden tax is severe. This sounds like giving up. It's not. It's recognizing that the American dream isn't homeownership. It's financial freedom. And sometimes renting plus investing gets you there faster than owning an overpriced home with crushing hidden costs. Option 4. Build equity through alternative real estate. You don't have to live in the property you own. You could buy rental property in a lower cost market while renting where you live. Buy a $100,000 rental in a stable Midwest market. Rent it out. Build equity. Maintain it remotely or hire management. You're building real estate wealth without competing in your local inflated market. These aren't the strategies your parents used. But your parents didn't face Wall Street landlords buying up neighborhoods with infinite cash. They didn't face property taxes doubling in 4 years. They didn't face insurance costs exploding. The traditional path is blocked. The alternative paths are open. But only if you stop insisting on doing it the way you were told it's supposed to work. Let me bring this together because I know some of you are angry. And you should be. This system is designed to extract wealth from the middle class and transfer it to institutional investors and municipalities. Institutional buyers squeeze supply and lock you into renting. The interest rate illusion keeps you waiting on the sidelines while prices climb. The hidden tax bankrupts people who do manage to buy. At every stage, the game is rigged to keep you from building wealth through homeownership the way your parents did. But understanding the game means you can play differently. Buy where institutions aren't. House hack, rent and invest. Build equity in alternative markets. The old path is closed, new paths exist. But they require accepting that the American dream your parents sold you doesn't exist in the form they described. And here's the thing nobody says out loud. For a lot of people, that's actually okay, because the homeownership your parents achieved came with trade-offs you don't see. Trapped in one location, immobile for career opportunities, spending weekends on maintenance, stressing about property taxes. The freedom to rent, invest, and maintain mobility might actually be better for your life even if it's not the traditional path. But that's a choice you get to make. Once you understand the actual options instead of the fairy tale you were sold. I've watched this play out with people I know. The ones who kept trying to buy the traditional way in institutional heavy markets stayed stuck, saving down payments that never caught up to prices, losing bidding wars to cash offers, getting crushed by the hidden tax when they finally got in. The ones who adapted, who bought in secondary markets or house hacked or invested instead of forcing ownership, built wealth, just not through the mechanism they were told was the only way. The system is rigged, but it's not unbeatable. You just have to stop playing the game they designed and start playing the game that actually exists. If you felt this, if this explained why you can't seem to get ahead on homeownership no matter how hard you try, drop a comment with the word rigged. I want to see how many of you are realizing this isn't personal failure. Subscribe if you want more truth about the systems designed to keep the middle class stuck. Next video is about why your 401k is the biggest scam in American finance. You're not going to want to miss it. I'll see you there.